Oh, there you are, Otto. What kept you, my dear fellow? Hello, Mr. Sholmes, Gina. You sure about what you said in there? That the boss, actually died the day before? It's pretty hard to swallow. Yes. I was shocked by the revelation too, Gina. As was I. Possibly more shocked than both of you. It doesn't have to all be about you, Mr. Sholmes. It's not a competition, Mr. Sholmes. I swear, Ryunosuke and I, we share one singular brain cell. It is ridiculous how frequent that comes up. But I was more shocked than all of you put together. Okay, well, maybe not. Anyway, this is the autopsy report in question, is it? Yes. It's strange that there's no time of death noted. I suppose there's a simple explanation, or perhaps it was a deliberate omission. Oh dear, if it was deliberate, it puts me in the mind of the last case we worked on, and Dr. Scythe. I know. Anyway, it seems that on the day before Lord Van Zieks discovered his body, Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League, so perhaps something happened with them. Come to think of it, you had trouble with those League men too, didn't you, Mr. Sholmes? You were taken in by their trick. No. Naturally, I wasn't taken in, as you put it. My sleuth-hound interest was merely piqued slightly by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. That is exactly what taken in means in this context. And that scent masks the underlying scent of deception, I suppose. The two criminals in question are the pair we saw being arrested yesterday, aren't they? In Mrs. Sholmes' suite, I mean. That's right, Suze! And it was me what took him in! That's a tip-up by a good law-abiding citizen. Indeed. Yours truly. So it's going to be that pair in the witness stand next, is it? Something doesn't quite make sense to me, though. The day before Inspector Gregson was found, you hadn't had trouble with the Red-Headed League yet, had you? Why would the inspector have been investigating them? Well, the likely explanation would be that Gregson's own sleuth-hound interest was piqued by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. He's dead, Sholmes. Stop making jokes. Don't tar me with the same brush as you, Sholmes! Yes, well, then there's the whole issue of Inspector Gregson being investigated by Lord Van Zieks for some reason. The Reaper, the Red-Headed League, Inspector Gregson, Lord Van Zieks, and Kazuma. I feel as though he knew we arrived at this point somehow. Gosh, I think you're right. What's he really trying to achieve here today? All the answers will soon be revealed. Observe the time, my dear fellow. The recess will be over very shortly. Yes, you're right. Kazuma was determined that he should be the one to prosecute this trial. And he was determined that I should take the defense. Just what is it that he's hoping to make me see, I wonder? I get the feeling we're a long way from the end of this trial yet. Are you ready then, Mrs. Eto? Yes! In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed court hearing of Barok Van Zieks, here present, who stands accused of murder. Now then, Prosecutor Asagi. My lord. Have you summoned the witnesses as requested? Yes, the two members of the Red-Headed League who planned and carried out the deception. They arrived not long ago from the local prison by police carriage. Very good. Bailiff, usher the two men into the courtroom. Those are both men? These two men are currently being held by police on suspicion of attempted extortion. You may omit your occupations, but state your names now for the court. I am Fabien de Rousseau, a descendant of the Great Rousseau family from Nice en France. Oh good, you're French. I hate doing French accents. And my name is Peppino de Rossi. I am the third son of the great family de Rossi, the landowners from Napoli. The two men first became acquainted at a boarding school for European nobility. Those who graduate from... I hate French. Those who graduate from Temsik are the future leaders of Europe. But... do you have any idea how boring it is to be born with noble blood? Alas! I make it my mission to get the better of the world by employing the little grey cells of my brain. That is all I'm trying to do, huh? So... that's the only reason for this whole grand deception you've been carrying out? Oui, you could say that. Not bad, eh? Yet, I can't switch between the two accents, it's hard. I'll be better about it. It's the grand ideal, but the petty plans. This strange combination is a charm of the hilarious brothers. Hilarious brothers. Okay. Si, capo? Listen to me, Peppino. I have two things to say to you. Eh? ¿Qué? Are you about to tell me one of your grand anecdotes? Evviva! Firstly, I want you to stop calling me this chapo or capo. And secondly, we are not the hilarious brothers. This is serious business. Chapello! There it is, the capo's trump card, the furrowed brow. It is deep, capo, the furrow and the meaning of your words. The court has been led to believe that under the banner of the Red-Headed League, you have conspired to swindle money from unsuspecting members of the public. Is this true? Oui, c'est ça. And what exactly is the nature of this deception by which you plan to defraud? Alors, I will explain it. No, capo! Leave it to me! As you see, we both have the vivid red hair, no? At school, we were teased for this without pity. The capo here, he was many times behind the schoolhouse, crying like the Trevi fountain. Yes, these dogs! One day the world will respect us redheads! Every night he would bury his head in a piece of pillow and weep for justice. C'est bien, Peppino, enough! I will explain the rest. The first step was a newspaper advertisement. About 1 week before the plan was put into operation, we listened to the same notice in every paper in London. Yes, we saw that notice. It was this one, I believe, entitled To the Red-Headed League. Oui, c'est quand? I am honored that you have seen it. It states that the only condition for joining the league is having a flame-colored hair. And that if you satisfy the interview panel and are admitted into the league, you could receive a weekly income of £4. On the date specified, the red-headed hopefuls gathered in droves at a park specified in the advertisement. And from each person present, this pair took an application fee of 5 shillings. And with the money, to France! It was a plan most elegant, no? No, it was most dishonorable. But to be frank, I'm stunned anybody was foolish enough to be taken in by such an obvious trick. The park was described by one witness as choked with red-headed folk, like a coaster's orange barrow. And the day on which all these men gathered to apply was the day before the victim was discovered. Crucially, these two men spoke face-to-face with every single person present that day. Oui, I've seen more red-headed people in one day than I will see in the rest of my life. See, and now every time I see the couple's hair, I feel sick to my stomach. Anyway, why have we been summoned here today? Sorry? The date for our trial was not until tomorrow, I was told. Naturally, neither of these men have been told any details about this trial. They've only been shown this photograph. Very good. So, Mr. de Rousseau and Mr. de Rossi, you will now give your formal testimony for the court on the subject of the gentleman pictured in this photograph. Of course, we are always ready to help with the law, except when we break it and steal everyone's money. We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assembled in the park on Lime Street that day. But I don't recall the man in this photograph. Eh, couple? No, I don't remember him. Obviously, he's dead now, but I assure you, he was not in the park. Allora, this victim is nothing to do with us. You have a lot to answer for, Peppino. It is your fault if we got caught in the first place. You've given sworn testimony that this man in the photograph was not present. Can you be certain? Oui, I am quite certain. We did not interview this man. Nobody looking at like this came to the park. This I can promise. It must be noted that you have been arrested for a grand deception, however. Accordingly, this court has little confidence in your assurances. With this attitude, we get to nowhere, eh? He's really a sulking now. Oh, he added the... I hate everything. This confidential document was obtained directly from Scotland Yard. It records an entry from the inspector's private diary dated the day before the incident. It reads, Lime Street, Red-Headed League, undercover. Ah, I have the answer. Maybe there was another similar event in the park on the day in question, eh? That is ridiculous. There's no question that Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League. Which means it's quite possible that's when he was killed. Very well. The defense may proceed with the cross-examination now. Ah, yes, my lord. Alright, he seems a little too confident in that answer, so I want to press that a bit.
Hold it!
But according to what you've said, you spoke with 1,000 or more people that day. Oui, that's true. My eyes were burning by the end of the day. Surely then you can't actually remember every single face. How are you so certain that this particular man wasn't present? Normally, the red hair is very distinctive, eh? But not when you have 1,000 redheads crowding around. That is just an eyesore. But if there was some other information you could have given us, maybe then we would recall. That is not the line, Peppino. Remember, we do not remember him. We are sure of that fact, no? If there was a man with a red earpiece, but his mustache did not match the color, then I do not think I could have forgotten him. Kazuma said these two had only been shown that photograph, and they had been told nothing else at all. But what if I fed them just one other detail about the victim? For example, maybe his profession. I can certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember in this situation. But what if I told you that the man in the red hairpiece was actually a detective? The man's a photograph and detective? Yes. It would appear he found your notice in the paper suspicious and decided to investigate incognito. Sorry, but this changes nothing. It doesn't seem to change nothing.
Excuse me.
Something to add, Mr. De Rossi? Okay, see? I'm always adding something. Parchment, olive oil, pepper. Oh my god, you're so painfully Italian. What I mean is, did you not agree with your friend's last remark by any chance? Eh? What did he just say? About the detective? Yes, that. Keep your mouth shut, Peppino. You've said enough already. What the why, capo? What is the problem? There was a man who said, I am Inspector from Scotland Yard. What? Good Lord! Order, order, order! Explain this volte-face in your testimony, witness. It is simple. A man who was at the bar said to us that he was an inspector. There was no such man. Madai, what are you saying, capo? Have you forgotten, eh? I have forgotten nothing. Nobody likes this came to the park. Basta, capo, basta. You beat me at many things, but not to the memory and the meals. Like I said, when it's time to eat at the pasta, no one is a faster. But you are inferior to me in every other way, so shut up!
Objection!
Ugh! Top Todd, the damage is done. Did we just, like, spiritually punch his gut or something? It's the first time that those fists actually did something by hitting the table. Oh my god. Indeed it is, sir. Oui, there was a man who came to the park, and he was an inspector from Scotland Yard. However, he looked nothing like the man in this photograph. He was someone else. How can you be so sure? Because, to start this, his face was completely different. See, it's true, it's true. The man who came was a younger. His face was a clean shaven, his eyes were sadder, his chin was thinner. No resemblance whatsoever then. Anyway, I was not going to be fooled. I took the obvious precaution and I said to him, if you are really a detective, show us the proof. See, the cop out here, he doesn't take no nonsense, eh? But he was well prepared. He said he had an identification. Identification? You mean official police inspector's identification? That is most unconvincing. Sorry, my lord? Counsel, no incognito inspector would offer his identification for inspection. It's quite out of the question. Definitely. Why would he expose his true identity? Clearly, the papers were fake. Certo, capo, you are a genius. As we say in Italia, it takes a thief to recognize another, eh? And what happened after he announced that he was a detective? He became very annoying. He said, you are under investigation. So I took his paper from him and chased him out of the park. It was a fantastico. And look, here is the identification. So you stole it from the man. He had it coming. He made us very scared. But he was not who he said he was. Indeed, the person described does not appear to have behaved as a true inspector would. However, I believe it would be prudent for these identification papers to be entered into the evidence. But I like them. Inspector's identification has been entered into the court record. The identification of a man claiming to be a detective inspector, confiscated by Mr. de Rousseau and Mr. de Rossi. Now, let us return to the witness's testimony. Okay, before we do anything else, let's take a minute to take a look at that identification here. Ooh, hello. Well, I suppose you should see what this inspector's identification looks like inside. Yes, it definitely looks fake, doesn't it? Out of interest, what name is given? Probably just something plucked out of the air. It's Tobias Gregson. Wait, what? This Scotland Yard insignia looks genuine to me. But how? And the department identification number details are all correct as well. Since when have you known those? Do you mean to say... I know it seems incredible, but yes. I think this is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. But that's unbelievable. This is the real thing after all? The details of Inspector's identification have been updated in the court record. Inspector Gregson's police identification. It is the official warrant card issued to him by Scotland Yard. Okay, so now that we've established that, I believe we can just go ahead and present this straight away.
Objection!
I wonder if I could ask you to examine this identification book very closely. Miss Lestrade? Why Miss Lestrade? What is your intention here, counsel? Is this really a fake or is it genuine? That's the question, which we can't answer ourselves.
Objection!
Don't be ridiculous. No Scotland Yard detective would allow his or her identification to be stolen. That is the boss's! No question about it! It can't be! As I suspected. The undercover detective who attended the Red-Headed League's enrollment on the day in question was the real Inspector Gregson, carrying out an incognito investigation. So the law! I know some French. Oh, order! But if the boss had his identification stolen, he would have reported it straight away. I mean, he was always on me about it. If you lose something, report it once, he'd say. Could it be then that the inspector was physically unable to report it? Physically? Hey, what are you saying? Unable to? You're not suggesting? Yes, it's quite possible that he was killed before he had the chance to report his identification stolen. No! I love their stances. Order! The defense posits that the victim was killed the day before his body was discovered at a different location. Do you two have anything to say about that? I know nothing. I don't know nothing. I was wondering we were gonna get to see that. Pull yourself together, Peppino. Mon Dieu, you can't believe a little more like a master criminal than that, no? Or behave. No, I wish I had to return to Italia. Stop crying, Peppino, please. Otherwise, Lomi! Stop your whining and start talking! Well, I believe the court will need to hear your story in considerably greater... I know nothing! I don't know nothing! But you will tell everything, or face the worst possible outcome. You will dry your eyes and testify again about these identification papers and the precise circumstances under which you came by them. For crying out loud. Get it? See, the truth is, we took him prisoner and kept him for the night in our secret hide. What the Okay. Even though I didn't think I was a detective, I was too scared to let him go that day, just in case. We talked about identification problem and shot him in the room next to us. That might have been a little tussle, but we did him no harm, and next morning we let him go. He spent the night in a nice room. It's nothing like prison, really. Why would you do that? This is outrageous. You imprisoned the man? But no, see, no. It's not like a prison. It was a very comfortable and calm and happy. Eh, Capo? It was never part of my plan, I swear it! Oh, so you think it was of my fault, eh? Just because I got the date to the ferry wrong? By one a little a day? I do not think it was your fault, Peppino. I know it! No. Per favore, Capo, is it not fair? You shall have plenty of time for squabbling back in the prison, gentlemen. Oof! I don't believe this. How could he have been a detective? Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. So, on the day before the incident, Gregson spent the night confined in this pair's hideout. Allegedly, I'm not totally convinced it was actually Gregson. There's another possibility that could be the case, but we'll get there when we get there. All right, I want to kind of get a little more clarification on the tussle, because Gregson has a gun. Pretty sure he has a gun. I don't know how these two could have caught him in any way. I feel like Gregson can hold his own.
Hold it!
What do you mean by a little tussle exactly? Both. It was nothing. Just a minor incident. The false inspector, he was a real piece of the work, eh, Capo? What happened? Oh, Mr. Jason, we give him a nice room and what does he do, huh? In the middle of the night, he tries to escape to the ventilator. Can you blame him? We chased him, being so, and we caught him again. Can you blame us? Yes. Wait, you didn't shoot the man in your haste, did you? Soot, what do you say for ya? Course not. I simply caught hold of him again and took him back to his room. You have more to elaborate?
Excuse me.
Mr. Rossi, is something wrong? Eh? Me? Something Mr. de Rousseau said seemed to make you, well, it seemed to make you act even more strangely than usual. What was that all about? Cavallo, at times like that, you don't want to have the cup after you, believe me. Now speaking from a personal experience. Personal experience? That is enough, Peppino. There is no need to say more. The truth is, the night before we put the Red League plan to action, I was scared. It was not fair to the capo, but I tried to run away. It's a shame you didn't manage it. But the capo here, he came after me like a turbine, huh? And he dragged me back to the house, kicking and screaming. I still have the bruises to prove it, eh, capo? Bruises, you say? Ah, you wanna see, huh? You wanna see my fantastical bruises? That's enough now, Peppino. No one wants to look at any part of you. That's mean. What did you do, huh? I show you what I don't. I show you what I don't. You do! Now! Cosmo is so done with these guys. Allora, if you want to say it, then I do it. Ecco, you see? It is a very visible, eh? That red ring around your neck? You got that when you were dragged back to the house? See, the capo, sometimes he is a very rough, and... I said that's enough! Peppino's neck is nothing to do... I'm sorry. This has nothing to do with what we are talking about here. You have my word. I don't value your word at all. Yes. What is your opinion, Counsel? About this red ring around Mr. Rossi's neck? I wonder, does it matter? Yeah, it's very important. I'm pretty sure I know why at this point. Mr. Rossi, I'm gonna have to ask you to amend your testimony with details about that mark on your neck. Hi, Capo. You see? Everyone is interested in what I say, huh? Very well. You will amend your testimony as requested, Mr. De Rossi. See, if you really want to know. I want you to get off the stand so I don't have to do voice for you two anymore. He tried to escape, but the Capo put a collar on him and dragged him back, like what he did to me, see? So, if this was really Gregson, why does he not have a bruise on his neck?
Objection!
So the day before his body was discovered, Inspector Gregson was taken prisoner while working incognito. No, it was not like that. It was only a prison. It was an invitation to stay. It was only. However you describe it, there's one glaring inconsistency that remains. What inconsistency is this, Counsel? I would ask the court to look closely at this photograph of the victim, Inspector Gregson. You will see that there is no red ring visible around his neck. Eh? But that makes no sense. It was me who took the collar off the man this morning. And I saw the red bruises on his neck, just like I have. Given that the mark is still clearly visible on this witness's neck, we'd expect to see bruising on the victim who was put in the collar more recently than Mr. De Rossi. Indeed, that is most peculiar. But what do we tell you, huh? We'll say this from the beginning, many times. Oh yeah, Peppino's right. The man's a photograph. Is someone different to the man we uncovered that night? Yep, I knew it. Order! It would appear then that on the day before the incident, the man who visited the park on Lime Street posing as an incognito inspector was not Inspector Gregson at all.
Objection!
If that's true, however, how do you explain the inspector's identification? This is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. It's inconceivable that someone could have stolen such an important item from the inspector. The prosecution made that assertion itself. And we also know that the inspector had made a note about the Red-Headed League in his diary for that day. Which surely means we can't divorce the two events completely. The inconsistency noted by the defense is most troubling. If it were the real Inspector Gregson whom these two red-headed gentlemen encountered, the fact that no bruising can be seen on his neck defies explanation. But equally, if they actually encountered an imposter, how did that person come to be in possession of the real inspector's identification? Does the defense have some plausible explanation, counsel? The whole thing defies explanation. It is for precisely these occasions that we keep meticulous notes in the court record, Mr. Naruhodo. Because those are the facts, and the facts cannot lie. No, the facts can't lie. Even when they point to something so incredible, it's almost unbelievable. Well, my lord, the true identity of the person who turned up in the park for the Red-Headed League's enrollment is revealed by information in the court record, I believe. Good gracious! Very tantalizing, Mr. Naruhodo, even though literally everything that we present to this court is from the court record. But whatever. So why don't you help us all to see whatever truth it is that you've apparently seen? Who exactly was this inspector that appeared before Madarusou Misurasi? It is an imposter. Though it seems incredible, I admit, the undeniable facts point to only one thing. Since no bruising can be seen on the victim's neck, the person whose these two red-headed men took prisoner that day cannot have been Inspector Gregson. In other words, your whole argument up to now has been a waste of time.
Objection!
On the contrary, I haven't finished. What? There's no bruising on the victim's neck, so the question immediately posed next is, who exactly was this man in the park on Lime Street found to be carrying Inspector Gregson's identification? See, that's right. We tell the same story every time. Whoever this man was, the couple dragged him from a pillar to a post with a dog collar. Mon Dieu, Peppino, I was not so harsh as you'll say, huh? So who was not the false inspector, eh? Who was he? Clearly, the defense has an idea about that. About the true identity of the man these two imprisoned that night. I must ask the counsel for the defense to elaborate post-haste. Who did the witnesses encounter in the park posing as Inspector Gregson? Well, so if you recall, and you can kind of see it here, Gossip has a bruise around his neck. So, how did he get that?
Take that!
Goodness me! Isn't that... One of the witnesses who was in the stand in this very courtroom earlier today. A nameless man whose only occupation appears to be peddling hearsay to passers-by.
Objection!
What on earth would a street seller be doing with a police inspector's identification papers? Witnesses! Is this the man or not? What has happened to his lip? Ah! See, this is a man, it's not for a leg, eh? He's looking for the twisted lip leg, no? Perhaps rather than making such rash claim next time, you should bite your lip instead. It seems improbable, yes, but one undeniable fact remains. During his testimony earlier, I noted something around the man's neck. A red ring of bruising. Eh? What? The defense demands that Mr. Gotza be brought back to the stand. Order! Order! Bailiff! Bring the aforementioned witness back into the courtroom. Immediately! Well, I never. An undeniable ring of bruising indeed. And identical to that of the witness beside him. Now, what's going on here, eh? I've always had this, me. It's a birthmark, isn't it? A birthmark, you say? I assume the reason you've been recalled to the stand has been explained to you? Hey, something about an inspector again? But I'm telling you, you've got it all wrong as usual. You're denying all knowledge of it. Well, of course I am. Are you trying to kill me with all this nonsense, eh? Well, at least you'll have more stories to peddle back on Fresno Street, won't you? Now, we're going to need you to testify again. And you, Mr. Usoda Misurasi, I'm sure you'll cooperate, won't you? Do we have any choice? We are in a big trouble, eh, couple? That's quite enough dilatory chatter. Proceed with the testimony. But dilatory chatter is what we do best here. That's like half the game. More testimony! The man who claimed to be an inspector that day was definitely not this man. Is it right, see? You think we would forget those grand lips, huh? I never leave Fresno Street, alright? I've no interest in any red-headed league. I'm all alone in the world, me. I have no kinfolk and nothing. How would I be involved in something like that? Just look at me, eh? Does it look like I could carry off a disguise with a face like this? You are a very ugly man. It would certainly appear that we have the wrong man. What I've been telling you, huh? There was no need for this pointless testimony. So that's right. Oh my god, I can't keep the accent straight at all. That's right, I'm just a simple peddler. Remember, Fresno Street's all I know. How would I have come by a police inspector's identification book, eh? You came by his corpse. Well, yes, that's hard to explain, but... A brief cross-examination, I think, counsel. Very brief. Isn't there anyone in this courtroom who thinks I might be onto something? I stand steadfastly at your side as always, Mr. Naruto. Thank you, Susato. I sincerely appreciate you all the time. And Cosmo's jealous. He knows it. He knows it! I'm not buying that.
Hold it!
So, you heard of the Red-Headed League, had you? You don't get a name like Gossip for nothing, eh? It's my business to know what's going on in town. I sold that tasty tidbit to a fair few redheads that came past me. Just between us, I even got Sandwich to cough up for it. Well, he does have a very red nose, if that counts. Who knows? But as you can see, my own hair's got not a hint of red in it. And in any case, Fresno Street's my patch. You won't catch me siding out to some other part of town. No, sir, not likely. Well, someone seems to disagree.
Excuse me.
Mr. De Rousseau. Oui? Can I help you? Did Mr. Gossip's words just now lead you to remember something relevant, perhaps? It was the other day when I was looking for a place near the park, a small house or something. To be the headquarters of your Red-Headed League, yes. I visited an housing agent on Lime Street, and there I saw him. This man was paying money to the agent. What? Mr. Gossip with a housing agent? Oui, he had some kind of contract in his hand and they were clearly discussing terms. But, no, you're mistaken, chum. I never left Fresno Street, me, like I said before. You've mistaken me for someone else. Someone with the same face. No, the capo's right. I remember it too. It was a panda man with the banknotes. With notes? Like I said, that wasn't me. I was curious why there's a man with the dirty clothes had so much money. So I looked at the name on the papers. And what name was written? Mr. Gossip? No, this man, he lies. He tells you that he has no name. But in fact, his name is Hugh Boone, huh? He's better than Mr. Gossip, I think. See? He's Hugh Boone. No! I'm a peddler of tidbits of information, like I said, on Fresno Street. And that's that. I don't much like folk talking about my personal life. Indeed. And it is not the intention of the court to invade the privacy of witnesses. Very well, I shall respect your wishes, sir. The aforementioned name shall be redacted from all court records of this trial, assuming no objections.
Objection!
Well, guess what, buddy? I'm sorry, my lord, but the defense does object. Because the name just mentioned has a very deep significance to this case. Good gracious! Do you similarly object, Prosecutor Asagi? As it happens, my lord, that particular name has already been mentioned during today's proceedings. Well, I never! In what capacity? Hugh Boone, the name of the leaseholder of the room. Let me put this very simply. The victim's body was discovered in your rented room. I suggest, sir, that you start talking. Well, all right. I suppose that might be the case, eh? So your real name is Hugh Boone? Well, just between us, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but there's no finer peddler of tidbits in town. So hey, I happen to be able to afford a grubby little room in a falling down backstreet townhouse. You do? And once every 6 months, I go and pay the rent to the agent on Lime Street. Hey, I remember now. There were 2 vulgar redheads in there last time. Eh? If either of us was a vulgar, it's not to me. Certainly not to me, a Mario. Sink again, Pepino. Why didn't you bring this up before? It's like I told you already. I don't like talking about my personal life. I'm a tidbit peddler as far as everyone else is concerned. No fuss. You will update your testimony to include this most surprising revelation, Mr. Boone. If I must. So the leaseholder Scotland Yard has been looking for since the body was discovered has been here under our noses all along. Hey, I rent the room where that fellow was found, it's true. For what difference it makes. Okay, so if he has no kinfolk or nothing, and we now know that he owns the room, why was this photograph in... Oh, wait a minute. No way. No shot.
Objection!
If you have no kinfolk, as you put it, then explain why it is that among the sparse furnishings, we found this photograph in the room. Ah! I presume, as you've been renting the room, that this photograph belongs to you, does it not? Oh, well... Mr. Boone, drop the pretense and tell the court exactly who you really are! I don't know what you mean. I'm a peddler. I keep telling you so. You really don't need to bother with me. Please, just leave it alone. As the man says, leave it alone. Whatever the truth is about this man's life, it has no bearing on this case. Because it's simply not possible that he impersonated Inspector Gregson.
Objection!
How can you be so sure? Just look at the man. No amount of disguise could ever hide those unmissable features.
Objection!
But what if we were to look at this the other way around? What do you mean? Yes, counsel, what do you mean? Well, there's no denying that Mr. Boone's lip is very prominent indeed. But consider the possibility that it's his prominent lip itself part of an elaborate disguise. Then hiding that prominent feature, in other words, revealing his true face, would make an utterly impenetrable disguise. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Hugh Boone? Good witness! Are you still hiding the truth from this court? If that's a disguise, then underneath it, his true identity must be... Yes, that's right. There's really only one person he could really be. My lord, the defense believes it can reveal Mr. Bird's true identity to the court. No, please, no. Very well then, counsel. What is the true identity of this peddler who goes simply by the name of Gossip on the Street? Well, based on everything that we've kind of observed in this case and everything we've learned, gotta be Daly or Dolly.
Take that!
Your real name is actually Mr. Vigil, isn't it? Mr. Dolly Vigil? Ah! I don't recall that name, counsel. Who is this Mr. Vigil? It's a name I encountered yesterday, my lord. It has to do with a certain client of Mr. Herlock Sholmes. A young gentlewoman came to the detective asking him to locate her missing husband. The woman in this photograph, in fact, this is Mrs. Vigil. What? From what I understand, you haven't returned home since the night before the inspector was found dead. But of course, on that night, you were being held captive by two red-headed League men. And last night, you were put up by the prosecution service in preparation for testifying in this trial. Because we'd been led to believe that you, Miss Venus, and Mr. Sandwich were all homeless. Being important witnesses in this case, we needed to know where we could find you, of course. And that explains why you've not only been unable to return home, but also unable to contact your wife, who's been beside herself with worry, waiting for you at the Vigil residence. Now, just you hold on a minute. I don't have the what I'm talking about? Really? It's simple enough matter to confirm my suspicions. All we have to do is pull off that disguise. No. Please. Bailiff, bring soap, a sponge, and a washbowl at once. That's a perfectly rational request, but that is not the first thing I was expecting to ask of the bailiff today. Mr. Rousseau and Mr. De Rossi, you will restrain the witness. What? Oui, my lord. See, my lord. Why them? What the heck? Ah! No! Stop! Get off! This does not seem legal. Don't! Oh, he is a very good looking man. Why are you doing this? Well, we are now seeing your true features, I presume. Yeah, including an actually good... Where was that suit? Lift your head, sir, so the court can see your face. It would appear that the defense counsel's assertion was entirely correct. This has all been a very elaborate deception. So, witnesses, tell the court, have you seen this man before? I don't believe it, but... Say, there is no question. This is the inspector we saw in the park. Extraordinary! On the day of the Red-Headed League enrollment, the man claiming to be Inspector Gregson, who appeared before Mr. De Rousseau and Mr. De Rossi in the park, was you, disguised as the inspector. Or rather, was you posing as the inspector in no disguise at all? Mr. Vigil was formerly employed as the chief warder at Barclay Prison. The chief warder? Then your career had promise. Why would you quite possibly have become the future governor of the prison? What on earth have you been doing peddling tittle-tattle on Fresno Street? Well, it's been 10 years since Mr. Vigil worked at the prison. 10 years? I'm really dreadfully sorry about all this. Yes, it's true. I'm Daily Vigil. And you were the chief ward at Barclay Prison 10 years ago? So, where did Mr. Hugh Boone come from? Boone is the other me. It's a name I invented. Well, evidently there is a great deal under the surface here. I'll explain everything. I'll tell you just how wretched my life has become. As you say, it was 10 years ago now that my employment at Barclay's Prison Chief Warder came to an end. Having left the prison service, I searched for some new occupation by which to earn a wage. But times were hard in London, and I found no suitable engagements at all. In desperation one day, I turned my hand at selling wares on Fresno Street. But your wife appears to know nothing of this. She still maintains that you are the chief warder at Barclay Prison. I was utterly determined that my wife should not know of my failings, which is why I've never told her. I opened an account at the bank under the name of Hugh Boone, and I rented the cheapest room I could find on Fresno Street. The scene of the very crime we're investigating. Yes, that's right. A place from which I could emerge every morning at 8 as a squalid peddler, and transform myself back every evening at 5 into a well-dressed man about town before returning home. That quickly became my daily routine. I was puzzled by the lack of furniture in the room, but that explains it. But why on earth didn't you just tell us in the first place? I have a wife, sir, and 2 sons. And without wishing to sound self-conceited, they regard me with some pride. I couldn't bring myself to disappoint them. So instead, you decided to conceal your occupation from them. Yes. I've made such a terrible mess of everything. Still, one thing doesn't add up. No matter how many tidbits of information you could sell a passing gentleman, even at 6 pence apiece, you couldn't hope to match the salary you must have commanded as chief warder at the prison. Very true. To have kept your family in comfort, despite 10 years of somewhat misbegotten employment. That was all thanks to Inspector Gregson. What? Inspector Gregson? What on earth? It was some years after I'd invented Boone and begun my other life as a street seller. He, the inspector, that is, recognized me one day. Do you mean to say the victim was an acquaintance of yours? I knew him from my time working at the prison. When he saw what I'd become, he was deeply troubled for me and my family. And from that day forward, he visited me on Fresno Street with increasing regularity. Then one day, he asked me if I would carry out a secret assignment for him. A secret? What was it? I was to impersonate the inspector. What? Impersonate him? We always met in that little room so the inspector could brief me. Visit Orxes tomorrow and take a statement from the proprietress. It was always something along those lines. Surveillance work, interviewing people. On those occasions, he would lend me his identification so people would believe who I was. My instructions were to make an impression, to let people know that I, Inspector Gregson, had been at work. And for those services, he compensated me financially. A Scotland Yard inspector willingly relinquished his identification into your care with intent to deceive? That, as I'm sure I need not point out, is a very serious criminal offense. But why? What was the point of you impersonating him? I truthfully do not know. All I can say is that the inspector warned me on numerous occasions. Now remember, Vigil, I need your solemn word. You don't blab about this to anyone, alright? Ever. Even if, well, if I end up a croaker. In time, he started to bring papers with him to the room as well. It became something of a second office for him. So, in fact, the person who declared himself to be Inspector Gregson at the park on Live Street was really... Yes, it was me, acting on the inspector's orders. As usual, I removed my boon disguise, and then went as instructed to the park, armed with the inspector's identification book. It never occurred to me that the bruise on my neck might give me away. But who killed him? Well, it would seem this confession completely destroys the defense's case. Explain yourself, Prosecutor Asagi. My learned friend's assertion was as follows. The victim was killed at another location on the day before his corpse was discovered, at the hands of these two red-headed league men when they imprisoned the inspector. But no, that can't be. After all, it wasn't the inspector who went to the park that day. It was me. Oh, goodness. Finally, we have clarity. We had nothing to do with the murder of the inspector. And merci, Monsieur de la Fente, for proving it. What? Ah! Order! Indeed, it would appear that we have reached a de facto conclusion of sorts. These witnesses had no involvement in the murder of the victim, as proven, somewhat ironically, by the defense. I hereby call an end to the cross-examination.
Hold it!
Wait, did he object? Pardon me, my lord, but with your permission, I would like to pose one further question to the witness. Kazuma? What question, counsel? It concerns the events of 10 years ago. I believe you would have been present at a very significant execution that was carried out at the time. 10 years ago? The execution of the professor, Genshin Asugi. I want to know exactly what your involvement was. Oh! Answer me, man! One moment, counsel! Is this related to the current case? Naturally. It is? It is the prosecution's belief that this case and the events of 10 years ago are inextricably linked. Does the defense concur, counsel? Kazuma, You're not yourself. You're not as calm and collected as usual. Poor Kazuma-sama. No wonder he's acting this way. Mr. Vigil's memories of what happened 10 years ago would tell the tale of Genshin Asuki's last moments. His own father. I know, I do understand that, but even so... Prosecutor Asugi. Do you genuinely believe that this question requires an answer in order to learn the truth behind Inspector Gregson's death? I need you to trust me. Please. Very well. The defense has no objection. I see. In that case, you will answer the question, witness. The truth is, I remember very little of that time. You've forgotten? I'm sorry to say, yes. As I said, I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. But for some peculiar reason, my memory of the events leading up to that moment is extremely hazy. Does that not strike you as strange, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? Well, 10 years is a long time. But to have forgotten the reason why he left such an important job? Yes, you're right. And not only that, Mr. Vigil's claim contradicts what we already know. The human spirit is a fragile thing. It's broken all too easily. Which is why we have a tendency to wrap it up for protection. Sorry? The human spirit? I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. When we experience pain and suffering that we feel unable to bear, we block it out, obliterate it from our memories, seal it away. But it never truly leaves us. If the seal is broken, the memories resurface. And when they do, that fragile spirit may finally be crushed. But I really don't... Kazuma-sama. But if it must be crushed, then so be it! Because the truth will not stay buried. It's coming out, one way or another. Right, now I understand. It's clear what his intentions are. He means to expose the truth at any cost. Perhaps if I pointed out the contradiction in what Mr. Vigil claimed earlier, it might cause some crucial memories to return to him. But should I? Should I present the evidence or not? Do it! I have no idea how this is going to go. But this is a court of law, and I have a duty to pursue the truth. Mr. Vigil, I'd like you to look at this. Evidence that clearly contradicts your version of events. A dismissal notice. The harsh reprimanding curve of Mr. Vigil 10 years ago was ultimately losing his job. So he did not resign, he was dismissed.
Take that!
Just a few moments ago, you made the following statement. I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. Well, yes. In other words, you claim to have left the post of Chief Warder of your own volition. Well, yes, of course. Why? Tell me. Do you remember seeing this document before? No, I don't. This is a dismissal notice ordering the immediate termination of a prison staff member's employment. A dismissal notice? And the name on the notice is yours, Mr. Vigil. What? What? It's mine? So you didn't resign from the prison service at all? For some reason, you were dismissed as Chief Warder from Barclay. No, there's There's been some mistake. I'm sure I tendered my resignation. This dismissal notice is nonsense. Isn't it? If you were forcibly dismissed, there must have been good reason. Clearly, you did something. Mr. Vigil, it's time to break the seal and have you remember. According to the few remaining records, the final execution that you supervised was on 17th of June, 10 years ago. And on that day, something very serious took place at Barclay Prison. The 17th of June... Was that... the professor's execution? Professor... As you were the chief warder at the time, it stands to reason that you would have been present throughout the proceedings. It does sound familiar. And yet, that execution never took place. The convict, ostensibly executed earlier that day, later re-emerged from his grave. The convict came back to life. In the cemetery in the middle of the night, there was a witness. However, the witness claims that a moment after he saw the convict clambering out of his grave, a gunshot rang out from over his shoulder, and the bullet pierced the professor's chest, killing him instantly. Those may have been the professor's actual last moments. Yes. Seeing as you were in charge of overseeing executions at the time, you must know the truth about what really happened. It's in your head, somewhere deep down. Well, Chief Warder Daily Vigil? I know there are memories in your head that can explain what happened on the 17th of June 10 years ago. And now it's time for you to drag them up! Mr. Vigil? Yes, the whole prison. It was complete chaos. The prisoner escaped. He was killed in the cemetery. The shocking news ripped through Barclay like a hurricane. What? Order! Do you mean to say, Mr. Vigil, that your memories of the time have returned? My head, it's like some floodgates have been opened. The images, the screams. Oh my goodness. The papers. There were reports, articles about a man who'd seen a ghost. Yes, and a Drebber. But surely those reports were exaggerated. We've established that they are not. There were traces at the scene. Traces of what? In Lowgate Cemetery, at plot number 139, blood. Lots of blood. That's where the man was buried, of course. Obviously, something terrible had happened there. The depths of conspiracy and depravity from which this tale is emerging are quite staggering. I've reviewed the police records from that time extensively. A thorough investigation was conducted by Scotland Yard to ascertain how the convict managed to escape in the first place. And the conclusion reached by the investigating team was that a member of the prison staff must have been involved. Are you suggesting that a prison warder abetted the man's bid for freedom? Yes, and I was suspected of doing it. Of using that mass murder's execution as a way to help him escape. You did what? I remember now. The horror of it all is coming back to me. Is it just me, or is he turning faster? One evening, a few days after the execution, some detectives came to the prison. Okay, he's definitely moving faster. I was called to the governor's office at the top of the watchtower. You have aged gracefully. I'm sorry, Daly. This is a serious business, but I cannot help you now. As Chief Warder, you're responsible for overseeing the execution of 4, eh? Well, seems the fellas at Scotland Yard want to have a few wee words with you about it. You'd better pack your things, laddie. You're to attend in prison. Or in person. As soon as he told me that, my mind just went completely blank. And the next thing I knew, the professor, the most hated killer in our country's history. And I let him escape. I'm finished. My life is over. Oh my God! Order! Bailiff! Fetch a doctor at once! Court is adjourned for today with immediate effect!
So, with Mr. Vigil's collapse, proceedings came to an abrupt end for the day. Once again overshadowed by the legacy of that notorious killer, appearing like a cursed ghost ship on a foggy ocean. Lord Van Zieks, Mr. Vigil, Cosima, and Gregson. All of them bound by invisible chains anchored to the same wreckage in the murky depths of the past. But the miraculous light that had been trying to cut through the gloom and shine on those tragic events was playing on the edges of the truth at last.